Okay, thank you. All right, guys, welcome tonight. Thank you for coming tonight. My sun here in Alabama is going down, so it's about to get dark for me outside. But I'm so excited everyone came on this New Year webinar, as Carol has coined it. Welcome today. Today we are going to be talking about, or our title is, Get the Most Out of Active Classroom, Intervention Resources for All Students. And our presenter here today is Carol Hill. And I'm going to tell you about her in a second. My name is Melissa Knowles. I work with Social Studies School Service just like Miss Carol does. We are both certified in presenting, and we really enjoy this as a side job from our normal routine every day, because Carol has actually taught 5th grade and middle school, 6th through 8th grades. She was in the classroom for 11 years, taught reading intervention, AVID, U.S.
Avid.
history, AVID, thank you, world cultures and geography, and Texas history. In addition, she's taught GED classes for 7 years and has been a gifted and talented trainer for the district while teaching school. And we're not done yet. She's now in her 4th year as a social studies instructional specialist for San Antonio ISD. And her favorite part of being an instructional specialist and supporting all of her 8 schools and countless students is ensuring the teachers get what they need for student learning to build informed citizens for our country's future. Carol, we're so excited to have you and be with you again tonight and learn from you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Carol.
Well, thank you so much. And really, everybody, thank you for being here. Things get really, I don't know, sometimes overwhelming on the second semester. So thank you for just jumping right in with us and moving along. So want to welcome you to the webinar today. So here's our agenda. I need to move our little faces. We're going to look at how do we find what students need. We're going to talk about how you would work with individuals, small groups, and then whole class and mini lessons with different series that we have available. And so this, when I saw this, I thought, this is how the teachers feel. You know, reports, parents, grading, lesson plans, meetings, testing, IEPs. And then you've also got your, we have map testing in our district. We also do TELPAS, which we're in Texas. So if any of you are in Texas, you know what TELPAS is. There's just so much on our plates. It's kind of ridiculous, but I just felt like this kind of put it in perspective for us a little bit. So I'd like to get to know you a little bit and to find out what is a challenge that you face when you're trying to figure out what to do or how to do intervention, and then what is a need that your students have. So Melissa is going to put a link to something called Lenoit. It's a really easy resource to use. I love using it with my teachers and with students when I'm helping with the students. And what you're going to do, you're going to pick a sticky, and I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. You're going to type in just your first name, your grade, and the content you teach, and then share one challenge and one intervention need for your students. So here's what it's going to look like. Let me move this. So I'm trying to move my big, there we go. Okay, so this is a Lenoit. And what you're going to do is when you click on the link, here are the directions right here. Select a sticky note, first name, grade, content, share one intervention, challenge, and one student need. And I'm limiting it to one because I know we could probably fill this Lenoit with all sorts of fun things. So you'll just come over here, you'll click on a Lenoit, on a sticky, it'll show up on your screen, and you just type in your information. Here's mine right here. Carol, 6 to 8, World Cultures, Texas History, and U.S. History. My challenge is finding aligned resources, and the need is in building student skills. Because a lot of times it's not so much about the content, it's about the skill level of my students. So just click on a sticky, and it'll show up real big, and then you type in your information, and we'll see what it looks like and see That way, as we're going through, I can make sure to point out information for you that connects. And just click on post when you're done at the bottom.
I am not finding the stickies. I'm not sure when you say click on a sticky where that sticky's located.
Okay, can you see the Lenoit board on the screen?
Uh-huh. But
Okay.
it's fading away from me.
Okay, so click on it.
Looks like a funnel.
Okay, so when you click on it, it should look, can you see the board, my screen now, what it looks like with the big yellow sticky?
No.
Okay, so let me stop sharing and share it again so you can see that. Okay, so
There
see
you
this
go.
big sticky? And all I did was click on the sticky. So I'm going to cancel this one. I'm going to click again. So I'm going to click a green one. Then you just type in your information. And when you're done, you click post right down here at the bottom right of your sticky.
Okay.
Did that help?
Is that under a different tab than the webinar is?
Yeah, there was a link put in the chat for you. If you copy and paste the link.
Okay, I didn't get that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And now I'm in the chat and I don't see it there now.
Okay, Melissa, could you post it again, please?
Oops.
There, it's added now again to that.
Okay, and I'll try again too. This is Lisa. I don't see a sticky to click on that would allow me to do anything.
Can you see can you see my screen that's green, and then over to the right there's like this little brown thing with stickies?
For us, Carol, and if other people are having the same thing I am, I don't see that sticky box. I have a challenging and highlight new box, but I don't have that sticky box. I have a gray box that says challenges and needs and highlight new, but those are the only options. There's no stickies inside of it.
Okay, so, well, then we will stop doing that because that's not helping us, is it? I apologize. You know, it worked earlier when I tested it with my teachers, but that's okay. So here's what we're going to do. Lenoit, actually, I've never had a problem with it. So I do want to encourage you to take a look at it when you get a chance. So at this point, how about if y'all just write in the chat if you're okay with that? And we can look at, let me see. So if you'll put your name in the chat, please. I've got my chat open now so I can actually see it. So name, grade, content, and then what's a challenge? Then let's just share one challenge. How about that? But if you know of a student need that you're like, oh my gosh, I have a hard time with this, meeting this child's needs. Okay, Leanne, U.S. history. Okay, Leanne, I have a question for you. When you say that all your students can handle, so are you thinking like something that all levels of students have access to, can access the content? Alicia, you're busy. 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade social studies. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. We can definitely include that information. So you're talking about access to the material that they don't need your support. Is that, am I understanding that correctly, Leanne? Material for online only. Okay, so Richard, you're looking for something that's one-on-one, individualized. Is that am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Leanne, thank you for clarifying. Okay. Okay, so Pam, your 7th grade geography, and that's a big content for kids in 7th grade. I taught that in 6th, World Cultures and Geography. So I understand that lack of background knowledge. Okay, background knowledge. All right, and vocabulary. All righty. And then Martin, 6th grade. Okay, another world geography for curriculum without a student textbook. I'd like to find at different cognitive levels. Okay. Well, we're talking intervention. So the great news is intervention comes in many different ways. Okay. So actually, with this webinar, we're going to be able to address several of your concerns and your needs. So let me get this out of the way again. So how do we intervene for our students, right? You've got one test, one state test, one district test, one whatever test, and it's one test. And everybody's got to climb that tree, and you've got all these different folks. And that's how they're going to be evaluated. And that's very frustrating because not all kids show their knowledge in the same manner on a dictated test. So let's talk about these different types of intervention. So we're going to talk about proactive. So you're intervening as you're presenting lessons because you know what the kids need in order to be successful, either through IEPs, 504, actually just what good teaching is. A lot of these interventions, it's just good teaching. So that's your proactive. You do it in advance. And then we've got our intentional. And I know, let's see, Richard, you were talking about that addressing specific weaknesses. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about formal, how we can use targeted methods. And then also you'll be able to track that progress because the grades for multiple choice, true, false automatically show up, are graded in active classroom. Everything else teacher has to grade. And then what about the methods based on what the student needs? And I think that really addresses everybody in some way because how do you meet students' needs? And as several of you stated, when it's remote learning. So this is how we're going to be looking at this. I just want to share a little bit about active classroom. Sounds like some of you are kind of new and it sounds like some of you might be pros. But I like active classroom. In fact, I am an active classroom fangirl because it's like the world is your oyster. If you need it, it is there. I like the way it allows you to select on learning modality. They've got audio, things that make them think, visuals with historical maps, image analysis, mapping. They can even create. Of course, there's reading, simulations, several different types of simulations, study skills, and then we've got video analysis. And they have several different types of videos. And we're going to look at not all of these, but we're going to look at several of these today. So we're going to find that a lot of these will be proactive and very flexible for that one-on-one. But then when you go to your era and theme option, look at all these eras and themes that we have available. Then you can target the content. through the era and theme and be intentional and formal here. All right, or there's always the 85 series, the titles that are available. Now, when you look at this, if you were not aware of, of how much Active Classroom has to offer, here it is. That's why searching purposefully is very important. And I would start with some of the series that we'll talk about today. And that way you'll have some prior knowledge, because I know when you talked about that prior knowledge piece, I think it was Pam, and you know, you may not have prior knowledge on some of these series. So we're going to help you build that today. So we want to search with a purpose. So this is on the activities page. And when you go here to search, I'm not live here, but when you click here, you're going to get a drop-down menu. So I went to the activities and I chose simulation. I want my kids to talk, because you know, when students are talking to each other, they're processing information, and they're also having to have that discussion that's so important for them to file away information in their brains so that they can get it later for when they're talking or testing. But when all I put in is simulation, if you can see down here at the bottom of the page, I got 14 pages of options with 20 lessons per page. Now, when you do the math, that's 280 options. And you know what I just did? I would have said, thanks, Active Classroom, later. So what happens when we refine that a little bit? So I have simulation. I went to the era theme and put civil rights movement. And guess what? I got 6 results, only 6. Now I can look at these and I can go through and find out. I can look at the titles and see which one fits my needs the best and start there. And all I'd have to do is click on the little view and it'll take me right to it. I can also, if you see this arrow up here, so I put civil rights movement in, but then to find something that was a little more targeted, I got rid of the civil rights movement and I just typed civil rights in here. And that gave me some other options that I was looking for. So if you use that key term, that can be very helpful. But if you know it's in a specific era, then you can use the era to find it. 6 is a lot easier to handle than 280. So when we're looking here, one of the ones I'd like to talk to you about is Atlas of U.S. History. If you can see up here in the corner, it says Atlas of U.S. History, and this is level 1. Now, what I love about the level 1 Active Classroom U.S. History, Atlas of U.S. History, there's also Atlas of World History, is that already it tells you these are the different things they're going to do. And you can see it starts with basic knowledge. And I know several of you were talking about, I need something that the kids can do remotely. So it starts with gathering the facts, links far and near, thinking about history. This one is time and change, which a couple of you are in high school. And I keep hearing from my high school teachers how much our students struggle with time and change over time, especially when you're working with kids in an AP setting. And you've got history through maps and people and culture. So on this time and change, you've got a map here that's talking about the Great Migration at a different time than this one. And then you also have some charts. So this is giving your students a chance to look at a stimulus, read a very small amount of text. And a couple of you were like, I want them to be able to do this on their own. So the text is very student friendly. And the nice thing about this is because they're working with the information in 3 different ways, that is allowing your students to process, and that way when they see more stimuli on a test that you didn't get in front of them, because we can't put everything in front of the kids. They're going to have to take what they know and transfer that knowledge to a new stimulus, a text box, something that they haven't seen. We prepare them the best we can. But that's one thing that I really love about the Atlas of the U.S. history. So here is the gathering the facts. What's really great about this is that level 1 or level 2, you can use level 2, especially those of you teaching 6th and 7th grade. Level 2 is a great extension piece because, folks, intervention is not just the child's behind. Intervention is also what can we do if we have to work one-on-one, like Richard was saying, then what do I do in order to get my other kids to work independently while I work with someone one-on-one? So that extension tool for the kids who move more quickly is going to be key for keeping them in the loop. So for those level 2, here's an example here. You can see we've got a primary source image and a graph. But notice also up at the top, they're asking for cause and effect relationships. So they're focusing also on the content in different ways that the students might be asked to look at it. This is a cause and effect question. And then here's another part of it with a map. And of course, they've got a nice legend here, but this one is asking them to summarize the information. And in order to summarize, you have to be able to take note of what is on here. Now, if you're not very familiar with Active Classroom, this little looking glass right here where my cursor is, if the kids just click on that, they can make anything on the screen larger as they go over it. They can also click on this and it expands the picture to the screen. So we have this, offers repetitive interactions with the same content to support transfer of knowledge and skills using different stimuli. And that actually hits on proactive, intentional, formal, and flexible. And what I like about the flexibility is you've got all sorts of images. So students who are struggling, either they don't read very well or they're new to the English language, you've got this available for them. And if, Melissa, if I forget at the end, could you remind me to go onto Active Classroom? I've got it up on my web. I want to show them the toolbar for the students because that goes a long way into helping students being independent. And I'll show that at the end if that's okay. Okay, so that's great for independent. Let's look at small groups. So you want to bring some small groups together. Well, this is called History Unfolding. You see the title right here, Jim Crow South. If you'll notice over here, it says introduction, then there's 3 different sets of illustrations. What I like about this, number one, if you've got kids who are having difficulty reading, the reading on this is very short, very small chunks of text, and it's got the images. And also what you can do is just assign one set. So this one set can be assigned to maybe 2 kids in the group. This set can be assigned to another 2 kids, and then this last set can be assigned to the other ones. And then you have them share out their information and then give them a question that they all have to discuss in order to find an answer. So you're hitting many different modalities because they're, have them write what they're doing. They're going to be speaking, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. And then with the interact, you can also, if you can do the whole lesson, but what if I just needed on reasons for migration, I had some kids who didn't understand the economic piece. I had some kids who needed the political piece, and then I had others who weren't really clear on what the social pieces were. I can hit 3 different groups in one small group and then have them come back together and talk about reasons for migration. I'm not going over this whole entire lesson. It's a big lesson. I am using specific targeted information that's going to allow my students to interact with each other. What I really like, debating the documents, Lisa, I would really encourage you to make a note of that title, Debating the Documents and History Unfolding. I think these have such great scaffolds in place that I would preview them with the students the first time they are exposed to it, just so they kind of get the feel, but it guides them through every single step that they need to do to be successful. And it's in very small pieces, very small pieces. Okay, so let's look at these illustrations. So there is a short, this is the introduction. It's not a big, huge introductory essay. It's a short little background piece that you can assign to all your students. And then each small group would get a set of images. And again, very short, to the point text. Now, when they go in and click on one of these pictures, this is what they get. So this is what I was talking about, where they've got this one image and then one question that they'll type in here and another one here. So they will start with something that the kids can see pretty readily, and then they'll give them a question, and you can see right here it's telling them that they need judgment in order to understand this. Okay, so they give them an idea of this is what you're looking at, but remember you've got two students working on this, and you can actually give them a breakout room so that they can work together and then bring them back when they're done. And that's been very successful. My teachers who have tried it, I know sometimes we're like, I don't think my kids will work very well in the breakout rooms. And granted, that takes some time training, and it took a long time for some of the kids to understand the expectations. But you know your students the best. So with this history unfolding, this is just talking about how you can have 3 sets of students working on each one of those sets of images that are different, which forces them to have a conversation when you give them that overriding question, which the overriding question, you can actually connect it. Let me move this up top. Right here. The illustrations here focus on the poverty of Blacks in the South and the ugly realities of Jim Crow segregation in all its forms. So your compelling question was, could be, what forms did the discrimination and the ugly realities take according to the images that you analyzed? And everything's just right aligned there. Okay. Let's also look at these primary source activities. Now, the eyeball tells you, you can look for it. The little person tells you, you can assign it. The check means that you like it. And the star means it's a favorite. So do you see anything missing here that we saw in some of the others that usually is right here? You can unmute yourself to share. Anybody see it? What's missing? Lexile levels. These have no lexile levels, these primary source activities. So again, several of you wanted your students to work by themselves. And just because there's no lexile doesn't mean that it is low level. They will actually have to interact with sometimes a very short text and an image like this one. So here's where, and you can see I had to cut off part of it because I wanted you to see what it was like. Again, a short little text, so they're not overwhelmed with that. And then a really great map about the Freedom Rides in 1961. And then it takes them through questions. In addition to the routes and the identification of cities and states, what information is shown on the map? Very basic up front. They're forcing the kids to stop and look at the stimulus and just observe and identify. And then where did most of the rides originate? Now they're having to interact with the stimulus. In which state did the most violence occur, the most arrest? So now they're going to have to go back and use the legend in order to come to these conclusions and get those answers. And then what qualities do you think those riding the buses must have had? Now that's not on the map and it's not in the legend. You get little hints in the writing. And how do you explain the behavior of those who met the bus in the South? So now they're having to take some of this information and process what would that have been like. But again, we started with the basic, what's on the map? Now use the map and look at the arrows. Now use the map and the legend, and now let's get the thinking going deep. So you can see where it scaffolds in the learning for the students. Yep, so we did that. And okay, so C3 inquiry. This is one of those series that can serve so many different needs, so many different needs. There are 10 primary sources. And if you assign each group, they'll each get different sources that they have to analyze. But that's for those who can do this work on their own and they know how to analyze what I call either your dedicated students or the high flyers. They can do that. However, you could just take one, like if your standard is talking about how the economics affected the civil rights movement or how the civil rights movement affected economics, which it did, then you could choose only this one. And what it does is it starts with a compelling question. Was Martin Luther King Jr.'s presence in Selma so important to the impact the events there had on the nation? Okay, so that's one. This is not the economic one, by the way. So it even tells them that they're going to be reading these 3 sources that are already in here. Here's source 3. And as you scroll down, you will see sources 4 and 9. For those of you concerned that sometimes some of the writing gets very formal, if it's very formal, they have an adapted version right after the primary source version for the students. And then they'll actually have you go through. So it's each group member should do some supporting. It has them do what? How would you support the question, the compelling question for each one of the sources? And you can see we're getting some depth here, right? So again, intervention can also be, what are your high flyers going to do while you're intervening for kids who need to be caught up or need some targeted intervention to understand the content? And remember, when you're talking about those gifted and talented kids, you don't give them more work. You add to the depth and the complexity of the content. So that's what this can do. And you can even match your kids up in different groups that work together, and because you know your kids' strengths by now, where you know so-and-so can do this well, so-and-so can do that, and you group them together and you've got this body of strength. And then the steps here. So what is the claim? And then what is your source? What is your reason for choosing it? And they will have that available again throughout. So this offers the 2 different pieces. If you've already done a lesson on the economics of the civil rights movement and they didn't quite get it, choosing the economics here on the C3 will allow you to show it to them in a different way using some primary sources. Or while you're teaching the others, this could be what you give them. You can either have them go in deep with the economics or give them the geographic or the geography material and let them add some complexity to their learning. So this can go either way. Okay, so what about whole class and mini lessons? So sometimes in a reteach, it's not going to take you an entire class. Sometimes you can get a reteach done through a mini lesson. And 2 of my favorite ways of doing that are with the key decision and the cases and controversy. This really gets the kids thinking, and it does it in a very easy way. So let's look at a key decision. If you notice over here on the left, we've got the actual information, the content, and then there's going to be a decision process. So they're going to read this and notice they're setting the time and they're making the student take on a persona. You are a resident of California. And then what it does, again, who are you in this decision? Why do you think? So they're going to have to actually go back to the text. These are text-dependent questions. So they're forcing the kids to go back and look at it so that they can get their answers. So when you said, well, I want something they can do on their own, these are text-dependent questions. So your students will be able to find answers in the text, okay? And they can even use their highlight feature to highlight where they got their answers. And then on the second part on this decision, this is where the kids really have fun. Because now, should you vote as a California resident, should you vote yes for the proposition? Yes, and these are some options, or no, we should not support it. Now, this is the kind of question that the kids are like, well, what if I say no? it's okay. You can say no as long as you can support it. And then other kids, but what if I want to say yes, that we should let them? I said, as long as you can support it, then you can say whatever it is you want. You have to support it with the evidence. And questions like this, the kids really get excited about. At least I've noticed. They're like, you mean I can actually say yes to immigration? I'm like, absolutely. Then they get more hooked into it because it's such a current event that really affects a lot of our own students' lives. So that's one part that I love about the key decision. Short little text, walks them through it, and then gives them a chance to decide. Now, this is that cases and controversy. And, I know some of the kids are listening to what's going on and they might hear a word here and there, especially those of you who are teaching high school. And this is one on court packing. So again, we're reading short here. I know, let's see, well, that was your 7th grade. Pam, you were talking about acquiring vocabulary. But let me tell you, those high school teachers would tell you the kids still need it. And here they've got the glossary right here. And I'm also going to address that at the end when I show you that student toolbar that's on Active Classroom, okay? But it has it right here. So after they read it, then they're going to be given these questions. So what does Roosevelt give for his reasons? What do you think were his reasons? What flaws? And then they're going to have to switch from being the president's, why did he do it, to what does the committee of the judiciary think? So again, starts off simple, and it takes the kids through that thinking process where they get to unpack the content and actually be able to have a thought and do some critical thinking on the content because it's so short. Okay, I've gone through that. But you can see again, being proactive on this. I like using the key decisions and the cases and controversies. I like using those at the beginning of a lesson as a hook, and especially the key decision because they have to make a decision. And then as we learn and go through the unit, then the kids have to go back and they will revisit their key decision and they'll see, do I still make the same decision and why? So they have to justify it, including what they've learned, or are they changing their mind? So again, you're giving them a schema to go back to as they're learning, and you're helping to maintain and build on knowledge and add to it. And that helps them actually retain the information. All righty. So I like the videos. We're going to give students experiences because the different perspectives are important. I know my students in SAISD, their knowledge base is very shallow and narrow because their experience is, for the most part, there are exceptions, but it's limited to a neighborhood, not the city. It's limited to the neighborhood. So this is something that really blows the minds of our students. This is cultural conflicts. There's several things I love about this. Again, it sets a scenario. And then if you'll notice, look, this one has 10 different points of view. So you could do this as a class and have pairs on these folks here, on these little different roles. And if you have more than 20 kids, which you may, you can still assign 2 people to be Soraya Gabriz, 2 different groups. That's okay, 2 different pairs. So again, gives you a little simulation. And here's a nice little piece too. It gives a parallel of how this actually is something that happens in America as well, and what that parallel is, which I really like because the kids want it to be relevant. They're like, well, that happened over there. What has that got to do with me? But everybody deals with the role of foreign workers. What is it going to be? And the nice thing about this being in Western Europe and not in the US when they're talking about it is it sort of takes that pressure off that, well, it could be talking about my family. It helps relieve some of that pressure because they're talking about another continent, another country. Okay, so what if I want to do something where they need, the kids are really great. I've got kids that just talk, 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 talk. Wonderful. Let's look at these acting plays. Now, most high schools, we don't really get to the Chinese Exclusion Act in middle school for my area, but it is in the high school. But the Chinese Exclusion Act adds wonderful depth at the middle school level. So what I did is you can assign a student just this one piece of the lesson. And I know this is small, but I wanted you to see this is all there is on the Chinese Exclusion Act, scene 3. This is it. So you're not asking them to read 3 or 4 pages of an act. It's very short, very concise, and gets that process going on one scene. You can pick and choose. Again, this is one of those things, let me go back here real quick, where you can assign one group the gold diggers, another group the choo-choo, which as you can imagine was the railroads, another one Angel Island, and another one Chinese success, and then immigrant additions to our country. So you could actually jigsaw this out and then have your students come together on this. And then again, vocabulary. Most of the active classroom series will front load the vocabulary, so you can release the vocabulary to your students as well so that they have that and they can access that as they go. But there's other information we can do too, so I can't wait to show you the student toolbar at the end. Okay, now this is again a C3 inquiry. This one's about Selma. Well, this is when you can, like we talked about, target. What do you want them to learn? And pull out or assign just this piece on the history group. So you don't have to assign the whole lesson. And if I assign my students history group, this is all they're going to see on their assignment. They can't even access any of these other pieces because I haven't assigned it to them. They will only get what is assigned to them in their assignment. And then seeing and is believing. I am a visual learner. I will just fess up to that right now. And I like seeing images. I like the image analysis. I also know that our kids like being engaged with short little videos. So there are 3 of these I'm just going to show you real quickly. We're not going to actually play videos, but the what's going on videos, these are longer. And I really want to tell you, you need to preview that entire video before assigning. Some of them I really don't think are appropriate for middle school. So you want to make sure you know what's in that video before it's assigned. Okay. They are really good. They go really deep. And some of them are kind of on the raw side where you're dealing with kids and their feelings, and it can get pretty raw. Then there's the Unfinished Nation, and then Colonial Williamsburg. So this one is short. These are short, a little longer at 7 to 10 minutes, done in segments. So what does it look like? Well, you can even see, I know this is a famous actor named Tim, and I can't think of his last name to save my life. But this is one of those what's going on, poverty in America. So it's asking how can children whose families are struggling financially be helped? And what can local and national governments and civil society provide to assist families struggling financially? What I appreciate about the videos is that it's looking at, okay, so what can be done to help? It's not saying what can you do? It just says, how can the children be helped? Because some of the kids feel like they need to go out and start walking the streets and helping kids. This puts it in perspective for them. But these what's going on are very real. These are actual people being videoed. So again, preview those, but they're very good. And then here's one, Transition in America. On these, the Unfinished Nation, you're going to find some primary video, primary images, which is really powerful for the kids. They get kind of caught up in like, oh my gosh, look at that. Can you believe they had cars that look like that? They look how people are dressed. So they're very engaging and helping for kids to understand the historical context. And then this is another one that I really like. I've used pieces of this. I've never used a whole lesson, but this is that Colonial Williamsburg. So these are reenactments. This one, it even tells you right here, this is more slaves have run to the Union. This time they are declared contraband of war and allowed to stay in camp. and members of the enemy comes to Williamsburg. So again, it's having the kids, they can't just watch it and be like, watched it, next. So there are questions that they have to answer as they're interacting with it. So your students who really prefer to watch for intervention, or even, again, we can do this proactively. If your kids are good about watching something like this, you think they'd watch the 7 to 10 minute video, you could actually end up assigning all 3 of these, but at different times. Maybe assign the first one. Let them watch that, and then you'll do, a day or 2 of your lessons, and then maybe assign Act 2 if that aligns with what you're trying to do. But what I like, because I know another one of you talked about wanting to make sure that you had aligned resources, is with Active Classroom, I can target my resources right here. I don't have to release everything. I can only release one of them. I can release even just the timeline or just a glossary if I want kids to go over the words and then write a response to a question. So the only thing limiting you in using this is really what series do you know, and how have you had an opportunity to work with them? Okay. So the great thing about Active Classroom is you and your students always get a bigger bang for your buck. Always. Because regardless of the series, you're going to be increasing their engaged learning opportunities so they can take that content and transfer it. It's so frustrating as a teacher and for a student when you give them an assessment and they're like, Miss, I knew it, but I just wasn't sure what it was talking about here. So they know the content, but they weren't able to transfer it. So how do we give them those learning opportunities? And then, as you saw, everything had skills and strategies built right into the lesson, right into the lesson. And then again, with the more opportunities for practice, and when you give the kids something where they have to talk about it, write about it, view a video, you're hitting several different modalities of learning, which is really key for all those individual students. You're hitting the one-on-one. I know, Felicia, you're teaching 9th through 12th grade. I just can't even imagine. So you can actually assign several of these to different grade level students, believe it or not. And I'm going to show you how you can do that with that student toolbar that's on Active Classroom. Okay, so how and when do I intervene? I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. Break it into short little sessions. You don't want to spend 1 hour doing intervention. I find that doing quick little mini lessons at the beginning of the class or at the end of the class works really well. There's your exit routines. And the thing is, if you're doing it consistently, the kids come to expect it. So that's the nice thing too, is get that routine going. As crazy as things are, the students really look forward to the routine and the safety of the school environment, even when it's only online. And of course, like we don't do this already, before or after school, some students will come, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. It's all going to work out. We just have to figure out how we're going to meet their needs. Okay, so I want to check in with you. So how do I find what my students need? Individual, small groups, or whole mini lesson. So here's how this works. I don't know if you've heard of this strategy called flood the chat. So what you're going to do, I want you to think about how Active Classroom will support intervention for your students in the chat, but don't hit send, don't hit enter. Just type it in. So if you want to go ahead and start typing in, how will Active Classroom, and you could think, well, there was that one series, Key Decisions, or I really like the Atlas series. It's got the different stimuli and it's got text. The C3 inquiry, I've got kids, I don't know what to do with them while I'm trying to do intervention. That's going to be great, adding depth and complexity for their learning. So what is it that you think might work best for your students that you're thinking, you know what, Juan, he loves those short little videos. I'm going to try those with him. So if you will go ahead and type that into the chat, again, don't hit enter. I want to give you just a minute here. And then when I count down 3, 2, 1, when I get to 1, I'm going to ask you all to hit enter. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for just a minute because I want to see this. So can you give me a thumbs up when you've got your information written in the chat? Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Richard. So we've got Felicia, Leanne, and Leticia. Yeah, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Thank you, Leanne. You can use those reactions down at the bottom too, if you want to just give me a thumbs up, because I'm getting ready to count down to 1. So when I get to 1, hit enter, and it's going to flood the chat. This is kind of fun for your students to do too. Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1, flood the chat. Hit enter. There we go. Oh, Tim Robbins, someone had his name. Thank you, Pam. Okay. Interactive World Atlas, short. Oh, good. Thanks, Martin. Video simulations. Okay. And the eras. Oh, good. Thank you, Pam. Atlas series. I know you guys are going to love those. Treat and interpret. Cases and controversies. Yes. Yes. Okay. So some of you may still be thinking about it, and that's great. That's great. Okay. So let me just finish sharing here. Finish this little video. So I want you to see just that. Let me get this back up. And that's called Flood the Chat. And let me tell you, the kids love it. They do. Just don't do it too often. If you are not aware, when you go to Active Classroom, there's an icon that says Professional Learning. If you go into Professional Learning and click on Webinars, which will be over to the right, these are webinars. All of our webinars are recorded. And all of these webinars have already been recorded, and you can go look at them at any time. So if you don't remember something that was shared on this webinar, you can actually go back. It'll be posted in, I don't know how long it takes, but give it a couple of days. It'll be posted, and you can go back, and that way you can stop and then go look on something Active Classroom and come back to it. And then these are some resources that I used when putting together today's webinar. And thank you. Thank you so much. I do want to show you on my, I'm going to make that go down. I'm going to go to Active Classroom real quick. This is basically done. So if any of you are like, I'm good to go, lady, see ya. That's fine. I want to show those of you who would like to see it where that toolbar is that I was talking about. So let me move this down. Okay, so here's Active Classroom. I'm going to go to one of the lessons. Oops, got to log myself in again. Okay, so I'm just going to go to one of these. So here we go. All right, so I am on the introduction, and I am the U.S. historian, or maybe I'm the Mexican historian, and I see this word right here, and I don't know what it is. I can highlight it. This right here is my toolbar, and I can move my toolbar wherever I want. So I can highlight it, and then I can go to the dictionary. So even if I don't know this word, I've got my dictionary. Well, I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, you know what? English is my second language, so I'm not really sure what that says. I can actually highlight it here and then go to my world, and it will translate for me. Now I have mine set to Spanish because that's the predominant first language for our students. We do have several kids, or lots of kids who speak others. We're getting Vietnamese kids in. The Hmong language is very big right now. Okay, so they can translate it. So if you're worried about your kids having access, but let's say that Carol is not a good reader. Well, I can just hit this finger and it's going to start reading for me.
Scene 1, Introduction. Mexican historian, U.S. historian, and mediator stand at the front of the room.
Okay, so I can get it to read for me if I need it to. So that's the great thing. And all I do is click it again. I can have it just one word. I'm not sure what that is. I can have it read just that one word for me.
Interrupting.
Because that's all I needed. I can make out everything else. So there's also a picture dictionary that can be done. Let's see, smash. So I can go to my picture dictionary and let's see. And it's showing what smash looks like. So those kids who are really new to the language or are really, really challenging a challenge when it comes to reading, you have some images that they can use also. So for those of you who were wondering, again, this is how you get it back there, but right here, that A with the speaker, that is your tool right there. Okay. Now, for those of you, you're like, I want to learn more, good for you. Here is the professional learning that I was talking about right there. And here's where you go to webinars. These are the upcoming webinars that we have, so you can register for those. And then the ones we've already done are here. And all you have to do is click watch and it brings it up for you. They are fantastic. There are a lot of different presenters. And I know I'm over my time now. So I want to stop sharing. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to help you with that. I see Melissa's got the evaluation in the chat. She's probably been waiting to tell you about it. So if you'll please go ahead and do that, that would be great.
I was trying to get it in before people started leaving because you told it was okay. So I thought, oh, I need to throw that
I
up
am
there.
so sorry, Melissa. Feel free to stop me. That was my bad.
I can throw it in anytime. You were on a roll, and we appreciate you so much, Carol, for sharing all this information. I mean, you hit on some of the exceptional features that are in Active Classroom and that really make it worthwhile for all types of students and all of our children in any type of environment as we're teaching now. So thank you so much. Someone did ask about the professional development certificate. So I added in also the email address. If you want to email help@socialstudies.com, you're welcome to, and they will be happy to send you a professional development certificate. But yes, if you will please complete that short evaluation, it just helps us get better as we're trying to do all the time. And as you are obviously trying to do being here. And I'll tell you, it did not feel like an hour, Carol. That was
I am so sorry.
No.
I didn't realize how long this was. I didn't think it was that long.